Wait, what about weird? Woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil sends the beast with wrath, because he knows the time is short. Let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number. Its number is 666. Hello, I'm Elena.
And I'm Echo.
And this is our podcast, What About Weird? A podcast discussing all things weird from cryptids and aliens to strange science and unhinged history. Do you know what my little intro was about? If we leave it in. I don't know if we're going to leave it in.
Heck yes, we're going to leave it in. That was awesome.
We're going to leave it in? Do you know what that's from?
No, what is it from?
It is the intro to the song Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden.
Oh my god, I should have known that. Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
If you know what that's about, you can guess what today's episode is about. Today, we're diving into the satanic panic. We're going to be doing a bit of a multi-parter on this one, because there is no way we can cover it in just one, and even the multiple parts we're doing isn't enough. So what do you know about the satanic panic?
Gosh, I know a lot about... I used to listen to, this comedy skit that was, Dungeons and Dragons, Satan's Game. And then it was just, this recording of a D&D session of a bunch of fucking nerds, but then it was supposedly, demonic. Obviously, a little bit from, Stranger Things shows a little bit of satanic panic with, people who like metal music or D&D or whatever.
Do you like fun stuff? It's the devil.
Yeah.
Mama says that's the devil.
Wearing black, anything with skulls on it, the media.
So us.
Yeah, exactly.
We are the satanic
that
panic.
I know was considered satanic and was heavily frowned upon for, quite a few decades in America before it became a little bit more normalized. And then obviously, there's the Michelle Remembers stuff.
Oh, we're going to talk about Michelle Remembers.
Yeah.
Not in this episode, but we will be talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the sort of ground layer gist of it, is everybody was freaking out that Satan was everywhere. Yeah, the 1980s were quite the time. Kids were into heavy metal. They were throwing up the satanic hand symbols at concerts. They're pretending to be demons and witches in games. Movies were showing kids how to do occult rituals, and parents were really worrying, where was this going? Were they raising their kids right? Should they be being exposed to all of this? Was the devil getting his claws into their little babies and turning them evil? In 1973, The Exorcist was released in theaters, and it shocked audiences with its graphic depictions of what demonic possession could be like, and everyone just kind of collectively lost their shit. Among other things, this is what threw society into a modern witch hunt for Satanists that were hiding in plain sight.
I love The Exorcist. That's such a good movie.
I watched it for the first time researching this because I am just terribly uncultured when it comes to everything, except for, weirdly enough, 80s music, which that's what today's episode is about.
Awesome.
Music and the movies. We're talking about the movies and the music of Satan. Satan is coming for your children. Yeah, I did watch that. And I just want to say, I think the real villain of The Exorcist isn't the demons. It is the medical system that was I don't know, we did two tests. Have you tried exorcism? Also, why is nobody talking about the fact that there was one cop that was really leading witnesses and was hey, if you don't tell me what's going on, I'm going to deport you. He straight up said that. He threatened the priest to deport him.
That is so fucked up.
It is. Yeah.
That's crazy. I forgot about that part.
Yeah, and so The Exorcist really was a big part of the satanic panic. Watching this, people were freaking out. And also Rosemary's Baby came out in the 60s, and horror movies really started to change around this time. It wasn't all monsters. Because before this, it was aliens and vampires and Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But in the 60s and 70s, up through now, it really started changing. There was a lot more satanic horror. There was a lot more occult horror, a lot more folk horror. There were movies such as The Wicker Man, which came out, which was sort of the evil is the pagans. Have you ever seen the original Wicker Man?
No.
It's fun. I liked it. I haven't seen the new one, but I liked the old one. And it's kind of just a classic folk horror, but that's sort of when this genre started coming out. And something about it really grasped people's imaginations. And at this time, there had been, in the 60s and 70s, there had also been a drift away from the church, which these movies sort of played on that fear of people drifting away from the church. There was a lot of negative press about the church at this time. A lot of the, there's a lot of abuse that was being, like, discovered and uncovered from the church.
Right.
Which, that's not something a lot of people talk about when they talk about the satanic panic. But, so it's sort of the seeing this visual of the perversion of the church and the, like, parody of church ritual, of, like, church sacrament and all that stuff in movies really started terrifying people, because there is sort of this idea in a lot of psychology that the most terrifying thing is common things gone wrong. Right. And that's basically what this was. And with things like the insidiousness of magical forces, satanic forces, that's not something tangible. That's not something you feel like you can fight. And so that really got in people's heads a lot. With monsters, it's like, oh, I know monsters aren't real. I can show you that monsters aren't real. So seeing that really got in people's heads. People were throwing up and walking out of The Exorcist. I don't know if you've
I've heard
those
about
stories.
That, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just this huge thing, and people were saying it was satanic, which I would like to argue that it was actually pro-Catholic, showing how good the Catholics were at protecting your children from these forces you can't see, but nobody pays attention to that, do they?
Yeah.
The Catholics are the good guys in horror movies.
Yeah, that's true.
Horror movies are pro-Catholic.
Yeah, you're right. It's never the demons like the fucking good guys. So I understand how they're like, this is pushing this on our children. I'm like, dude, the demon's the bad guy in the movie and gets fucking excised. What are you talking about?
I was reading articles and interviews while researching this where people were like, yeah, I went and saw The Exorcist and then I started going to church more.
Yeah, exactly.
If anything, it really helped them. But I guess people didn't see it that way, and they saw this as, like, they saw their fears put up on the screen.
Uh-huh.
And that really helped kickstart this, along with, like you said, Michelle Remembers, which we're going to get into that in a later episode. But it wasn't just it wasn't just movies. Like I had mentioned, there's, like, music in this. There's a lot of cartoons. The cartoons were being accused of converting, like, little children, not just teenagers, little children who are watching cartoons towards Satan, and as well as the toys connected to them, which we'll talk about that in the next episode. In his book Turmoil in the Toy Box, author Phil Phillipson laid out what he claimed as the seemingly obvious corruption of children through children's shows. He talked about how Scooby-Doo, He-Man, and other beloved cartoons were instructing kids on how to astrally project and brainwashing them into thinking how much they could get good powers from demons, and how these cartoon superheroes are higher than God. They have the powers of God. And it wasn't all just innocent children's cartoons of Bugs Bunny being bonked on the head by other cartoon animals with a rubber mallet. The cartoons were also shifting, as well as horror movies. The cartoons were showing, like, there were demonic villains in kids' cartoons.
I always find it funny, like, you talked about, like, they were mad about, like, astral projection and stuff like that. And I just think it's really funny because they're talking about things that have nothing to do with the Christian religion. They're always like, we're equating, like, I don't know, stuff from different pagan religions with Satanism, even though it literally has nothing to do with Satan or God or the Bible or anything to do with the Christian religion. Like, it's completely separate from that, and yet they're like, this is Satan.
Well, literally anything that they didn't understand or anything that didn't fit squarely into Christianity was, or that they didn't understand, was, like, that was unknown and that was satanic. They don't understand, like, even today, a lot of people don't understand the difference between Satanism and paganism. As a pagan, I can say, people don't understand the difference.
And I guess it's like...
They see candles on an altar and they're like, oh, that's Satan. And I'm like, I'm just out here connecting with nature, dude.
So my thing is, so the Christians basically believe in, like, they're like, don't follow false gods and all that stuff. And so I think where they're coming from is any other religion is considered following something false, and therefore it must be the work of Satan. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, that is, like, such a stretch to me.
Oh, no, it definitely is. If you're in a belief system where anything else is the devil, then you see everything as the devil. And, like, if you have a hammer, everything's a nail. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But if you're outside of that, like, there are very obvious, distinct differences between Satanism and Wicca, between Wicca and, like, Norse paganism and, like, Cometicism and Hellenism. Like, all these different paganisms, there's different versions, but people don't see that, and they do look very similar. I can totally understand how they look similar. For my research, I went and listened to the Satanic Bible because it kept coming up and I'm like, okay, what are they talking about? The Satanic Bible, basically, like, 90% of it is just like, why is everybody such a hypocrite? And let's just enjoy life.
Yeah, and like, a little touch of hedonism.
Yeah, it was... Like, that was what 90% of it was. And there's some good points and some bad points in it. There are some very funny parts in it. But at one point, they did bring up, Anton LaVey, the author, brought up a good point that some Christians will degrade and call other Christians of different denominations, like, heretics and stuff. They'll call Jewish people, they'll call them heretics and Satanists because they don't believe the exact same thing. And I think it's just, this whole time was fraught with, like, xenophobia, and I'm not even going to get into the fact that we're still kind of in it, but y'all already know. Y'all already know.
In it. Like,
we're fully in it. It just
still definitely
has slightly morphed.
Yeah.
But the Satanic Bible doesn't, like, reading that, according to the Satanic Bible, there isn't a belief in an actual Satan. It is Satan as a metaphor. It's a lot more atheist.
Oh, okay. I always kind of wondered about that, because I didn't know if they were, like, Christians in the way that they believed that God was real, but then they were like, Satan is, like, I choose to follow Satan, or if they were, like, basically atheists who wanted to basically follow the idea of, like, an anti-Christianity.
Yeah, their sense of God is, or the sense of, I'm not speaking for all Satanists, I'm speaking from reading the Satanic Bible. But the sense of, like, God that is brought up is, like, treat yourself as God. Don't be conceited, but treat yourself well. Idealize yourself, make yourself the center, but that doesn't mean you should hurt other people.
Right.
Like, don't mess up your relationships with other people because I'm God. Because it's important to have people around you that you care about. And a lot of things that were brought up was, like, if I believe that I should enjoy life and I shouldn't be a hypocrite and I don't want to be walked all over and I should, like, take care of myself, and if those are sins, like, call me a Satanist. That is basically what the Satanic Bible is about.
Interesting.
Which is kind of different from paganism. And a lot of the stuff that's brought up as Satanism is paganism. Like you said, the astral projection, satanic rituals and stuff. And a lot of the satanic rituals are based off of movies and media, and, like, all of the pagans that I personally know are like, this is ridiculous. In the Satanic Bible, there's like 30 minutes, if you're listening to it, of just making fun of how ridiculous these like satanic rituals are, because it's like, who would want to do that?
Right, because if someone is an actual Satanist, they're not like fucking making sacrifices, like blood sacrifices or anything.
There's a great line, I don't remember the exact line, but it's something along the lines of, the only appropriate human sacrifice is someone that is so incredibly annoying that anybody would want to sacrifice them in that. And the purpose is to the purpose of this ritual is to dispatch this incredibly annoying person, and anybody would want to get rid of them.
So they're just like making jokes about it at this point.
Yeah. And there's like there's a really funny bit about how doing a love spell, and like, if you want to attract a pretty woman from a fishing village, put a mackerel in your pocket because the smell of the fish will remind her of home. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And we have slightly gotten off topic.
Yes, okay.
But point being, Satanism and paganism are not different. Are different. They're not different. Hail Satan. No.
They're very different.
They're very different, but they are similar in the sense that they are not Christianity, and they are unknown to a lot of people and considered demonic.
Yeah, and for the sake of this episode, they're going to be just lumped in together.
Yeah, this entire thing. Basically, anything that isn't Christian or anything that is scary was considered Satan. Mm-hmm. Like music. A lot of the music was changing at this point as well. It was a bit of a turn away from like pretty boy rock and roll, Elvis Presley type
the Beatles.
Stuff. Yeah, and even some of the pop was being accused of being
because the
satanic.
Beatles were definitely not.
Yeah,
they were like anti-Christian a lot.
But they weren't considered. They were considered perfectly fine at this time. But some of the names were scary to people. The album art.
Oh yeah.
I can kind of understand why parents would be concerned if they start seeing albums on their kids' shelf where the band's names are like Judas Priest and Sex Pistol, Twisted Sister, Black Sabbath, and the albums have names like Ultimate Sin, Welcome to Hell, Dream Evil. There's demons on the cover. There's sort of blood and violence. There's sexy ladies with not enough clothes. It's replicating the stuff they were seeing in movies that was showing all of this satanic activity, this anti-Christian behavior. So at this time, because of all of this music, an organization came together known as the PMRC, which, what does it stand for? Parental something. I don't know. It's the people, I wrote it down somewhere and then I guess I deleted it. But it's the organization that is responsible for the parental advisory label.
Oh,
there was a whole bunch of trials about it.
That's so crazy.
That is an episode for another time because not all of it is satanic.
Right.
But this all started with 15 songs dubbed the Filthy 15, which were considered like the 15 worst songs at the time. And there were all these trials of, well, do we do parental guidance labels? Do we not do them? Do we just not let people make this music? And they kind of came to this, they sort of settled around this agreement of, okay, we'll put parental guidance labels on stuff. You can still make the music you want, but this way parents will know, oh, I see this parental guidance label. I'm not going to let my kid listen to this. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that label was just hey, there's scary stuff in this. Listen to this, kids. Like, every single person I know is like, well, I saw that label, and I was like, well, now I want to listen to that.
Now I'm going to buy all of the records at the record store that have this label on them.
Do you want to try and guess what songs are in the Filthy 15? I'll list off the names of the bands and see if you can figure out the songs.
Oh God, I don't know if you're going to know. So bad at this,
I don't know if you're going to know all the bands, because I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm so bad with song names. Like, I literally can't name songs from bands, so this is going to be really hard for me.
Oh, it's funny because a lot of these songs, not all of them, but like half of them are songs that I regularly listen to. So I'll just run down the list. Number 1 is a Prince song.
Oh shit, a Prince song? I have no idea.
Darling Nikki. The next one is Sheena Easton. I can't read.
I have no idea.
I have no idea who that is, but the song is Sugar Walls.
Okay.
Next up is Judas Priest. Do you listen to any Priest?
Oh God, any of their songs?
Literally any of it. Just by the name Judas Priest, I can list 6 songs off the top of my head. Yeah. But the song they specifically picked was "Eat Me Alive."
Okay.
Which, honestly, I just want to say I'm still surprised people in the 80s didn't peg Rob Halford for being gay, because look at him. Just look at him. What? How do you look at that and go, that man is straight? Homeboy's on stage in assless chaps, leather chaps.
That's so funny. Okay.
So, number 4 is a Vanity song.
I don't think I know them either.
The song is Strapped on Robbie, baby.
Okay.
Number 5 is Motley Crue.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't know what song, though.
Bastard.
Ah, yeah, okay.
6 is AC/DC.
They haven't come out with Highway to Hell yet at this point.
I think when was this?
Because that would make sense if it was on there.
I'm pretty sure they had come out with Highway to Hell by then. Because
it was
85.
If it wasn't that one.
I'm like 90% sure they already have it out, but it was not. It's Let Me Put My Love Into You. A lot of these songs are very...
because like a lot of these don't even have to do with hell or Satanism or anything. No, they're just sexual.
A lot of them are just sexual.
Okay, I guess it is the dirty 15, so I should be thinking less in terms of like satanic and more in terms of like these are sexy songs. Okay. Yeah. Continue.
Next up we have Madonna.
Oh, Like a Virgin?
Dress You Up.
Okay, well, Like a Virgin would have been on there if it was out at the time. I don't know if it was.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that there's so many songs I can think of that would be so much worse, and they're like, let's do this. Okay, next up we have a Wasp song. I don't know if you know Wasp.
I do, but I don't know what song it would be.
Animal.
Okay.
Which the alternate name is Fuck Like a Beast.
Right,
So
yes.
That's understandable.
Yes.
Next up we have Def Leppard.
Oh, God. What is that song?
High and Dry.
Okay.
Then we have Merciful Fate. This one is satanic.
I've heard of that one.
It's Into the Coven. We have Black Sabbath.
That one makes sense. That could be any of their songs.
Yeah, it could be, but they went with Trashed.
Okay.
Mary Jane Girls is next.
I don't know them.
I don't know them either. In My House. Then we have Venom. I don't know if you listen to any Venom.
Mm-mm.
Possessed, which that makes sense. And lastly, we have Cyndi Lauper with...
What?
Cyndi Lauper with She-Bop.
That's just weird. That's great. Okay, that's crazy.
A lot of the...
It's funny, I like literally don't know like most of these songs except for a couple of them.
I know.
Then, like, I'm unable to name any of them. Like, clearly they're not that bad now.
Yeah, they're not that bad, or I guess they must not have been that good of songs.
Like, they would do the Dirty 15 today, and it's just like all fucking Cardi B songs.
Yeah, you couldn't make that list today because there's too much stuff.
Yeah.
We're so desensitized. But so a lot of that was...
Because so many of those I don't think are that bad. Like, they're just not.
No, I don't think they're that bad either. But the reason I even bring this up in the first place is because there was a lot of those are accused of being very sexual songs, and a lot of like sexual activity, like anything that was considered sexy or sexual was sort of lumped in with Satan, and Satan's making your kid into a whore. It's like, no, it's their mommy issues.
Because the Christians aren't the ones that also reproduce. Like, not everybody doesn't reproduce and have sex.
It's only a sin if it's out of wedlock.
Yeah.
Or something. Something that was targeted a lot at this time was the rock and roll devil horns. You know them. You love them. We all know them. We love them. Do you know the origin of those?
I don't think so.
Excited to talk about this. So, the artist Ronnie James Dio, who... my favorite artist.
Yes. You love them.
Briefly in Black Sabbath, in Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, he is just an icon in the metal community. When he was in Black Sabbath, he really started doing the metal horns a lot. You all know them. I don't have to describe them. But he started doing them as like a stage thing along with some religious iconography. And he had, in an interview, he had mentioned that growing up, he saw his grandmother doing that a lot. his old Italian grandmother would do that when someone would give her a nasty look. And That's is
so funny.
I'm not even going to try and pronounce the Italian word, but it's basically just an old Italian sign to, like, keep the evil eye away. And he started doing it because he thought it looked cool, and it went with the religious, because his religious grandmother was doing it, it went with, in his mind, the religious iconography, and then it caught on like wildfire. So it is protecting against evil, and they're accusing it of being evil.
Because it's not even actually devil horns. It's like a religious thing. That's insane.
So that is, and then, like I said, just caught on, became such a huge thing. So now we've sort of talked about some of the base. Let's start getting into a few cases that have to do with the music. So first up, we're going to talk about the Judas Priest suicide case. So on December 23rd of 1985, Raymond Belknap and James Vance were drinking, they were doing some drugs, just having a good time. Well, maybe not so much of a good time because they made a suicide pact to shoot themselves. And Belknap succeeded, but Vance failed to take his own life. And he just gruesomely... I should have made a trigger warning. I'll make one and then we'll edit it into the beginning of this. I'm so sorry.
I forgot about that shit.
I totally forgot.
Oh my god, I was thinking about it too.
Remind me when we're done recording this to do that. But so he just blew the bottom of his face off, and now he's just terribly disfigured. But later it was found out that they were listening to Judas Priest, and their parents were like, oh, Judas Priest, that's a satanic sounding name. It must be Judas Priest that made them want to kill themselves. And so they took the band to court for subliminal messaging. Thank you. I can't word. And said that there were words in the song such as try suicide and let's be dead, do it, do it, do it. And the band testified and were like, no, that's not what this is about. The band themselves said if someone is suicidal, the music isn't going to make them do that. It is other issues that should have been addressed.
Right. I mean, I would attribute it more to the drugs and the music they were listening to. Like, I do not want whatever drugs they're on. That sounds fucking terrible.
That sounds awful. But this whole trial really kicked up sales in their music, and people started buying it for the, like, satanic messages. And this is really when that whole thing of, if you play an album backwards, you hear a satanic message came out, and that started making record sales go up. And a lot of people, there were some people that were accused of it, like bands like Judas Priest, but there were some bands that were saying it just so that they could sell more records, and that they just helped fuel the fire. So on a similar case on a similar note to the Judas Priest case, we have the West Memphis 3. Have you ever heard of the West Memphis 3?
I have, yeah.
So a lot of people know about this. I'm not going to go into too much detail because you could do a whole series on it.
It makes me so mad.
Infuriates me, and it's really gross and depressing. But a lot of people know this from the documentary Paradise Lost. I watched that while I was doing research for this. So for those of you who don't know, three young men, Damian Eccles, Jason Baldwin, and Jesse Miskelly Jr., were accused of murdering 3 boys, Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers, in May of 1993 in West Memphis, Arkansas. The boys that were murdered, they were all around 8, and they were found murdered in the nearby woods in a creek. It was incredibly shocking and brutal, and I do not recommend watching the Paradise Lost documentary if you have a light stomach. I was not prepared for it when I got in, and within the first, 30 seconds, it's just, dead, naked 8-year-old right in your face, and I just was like, okay, I have to turn this off.
Yeah, that's fucking terrible. Okay.
So, don't watch that unless you are prepared for it.
Right.
Because that was rough. It gets a bit easier as time goes on, but the first, 5 minutes, they hit you with that. So this crime was just so brutal and stuff that everybody was shocked, and the way that the bodies were found mutilated, and because of all the craze that was going on with the fear of Satan that had been going on for the last 10 or so years, they were quick to find people that fit the bill for Satanists, and they pinned it on Eccles, Baldwin, and Miss Kelly because they were sort of outcasts. Eccles in particular was very goth. He did some research into Wicca and Satanism and different religions, and they all listened to heavy metal. They were all just your average sort of punk alternative kids. And because they were there to be blamed, and a lot of people didn't really talk to them, they considered them weird, they just sort of pinned it on them. And that infuriates me. Because there was, watching the documentary, doing my research, I was looking and looking, and I couldn't really figure out why they pinned it on these guys. Because it's not like his shoe was here. They had fingerprints. Forensics evidence and DNA evidence was still sort of in its infancy. It hadn't really been out too long. There was some forensics, but the forensic science really only started catching on in the 80s, and then DNA really only started becoming a thing in the 90s, just about. And so they just pinned it on whoever fit the bill for Satanists because this was a quote-unquote satanic murder. And a lot of this hinged on the confession of Jesse Miss Kelly Jr., who was sort of led and pressured into a confession. While under questioning, the cops would ask him a question and then repeat it slightly differently. So one example that was brought up in the courtroom was they had asked him, "What time was it when you were in the woods?" And he said, "I don't know, about noon." Couple questions later, they ask him again, "Was it after school you were in the woods?" And he goes, "I don't know, I guess." And they're pressuring this. He's been in the interrogation room for hours and hours. And a couple more questions, and they go, "Okay, so that night while you were in," they're leading it on and modifying it. His confession was really under a lot of scrutiny because he had some intellectual disabilities and an IQ of 72, so it was a questionable confession. And so a lot of it hinged on that. He was the one that was confessing. They didn't have really any evidence for it.
There was no evidence, right? It was just this confession that did it in. And it was completely leading questions and questioning him under duress.
Exactly.
And he literally had no fucking concept of what he was confessing to. He just didn't. He was scared and he couldn't really fully grasp the situation, and they took advantage of that.
Yeah, and the only reason why they ended up convicting these three of the murders. And the main things were, one, that confession, and two, nobody could account for where they were. Nobody saw them anywhere else, but they were like, "No, we were at home watching TV. We were watching this program that was on at this time." Obviously streaming wasn't a thing, so if they said they were watching this is what happened in this show that was only on at that time, you'd think,
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people that came forward and said, "Oh, I heard him say this, I heard him say that," but it was never proven that they were there, and there were a couple of witnesses that were brought up that were very, very questionable, a couple that were known for lying, but it was a whole thing. And, do we know for sure that they committed these murders or not? We don't know, but I feel like given the fact that later on they DNA tested what evidence they had, and that DNA evidence did not link any of them to this crime scene, I think says a lot. And there was also some evidence that I can't say for sure because, again, they didn't test it, but that one of the murdered boys' dads might have been responsible. But there's some evidence for that. I can't say for sure. Heavy allegedly on that. But so after this trial, Eccles was sentenced to death. He was the really goth one. And then Baldwin and Miss Kelly were supposed to receive life sentences. They did eventually get out because there wasn't evidence. There just wasn't evidence. And this whole thing hinged on fear and prejudice and misunderstanding. But I do want to say there was one really funny bit where Damien Eccles' dad was talking about how they accused him of being a Satanist because he wore black. And he was like, just because he wears black don't mean he's a Satanist. Johnny Cash wears black too. Which I just thought was so, it was like a good point, but it was so funny the way he said it. And it's just like, you're right, Johnny Cash does wear black too, but like...
That's a good response.
Okay. But I just thought that was entertaining.
No, after watching that documentary, though, I 100% believe that they did not do it. Like, I don't think they did. There was no evidence for it. They pinned it on a bunch of fucking kids that were, like, into metal and just trying to explore, like, anything that wasn't Christian.
Their crime was being the weird kids. Yeah. Which, if that's the case, then I guess we're Satanist murderers, too. Like...
Someone's gonna, like, clip that part out and, like, send it to the fucking police and be like, these bitches said they're Satanist murderers.
Honestly, in this day and age, you know what? We'll put up a GoFundMe for our bail starting, like, when this episode goes up.
Things have gotten so fucking extreme again. It's so bad.
Oh, geez. These episodes were so hard to research because I'm, like, doing this research and I'm like, oh, we're basing these cases off of prejudice. Where do I know that from?
Yeah.
Oh, people are afraid of things they don't understand. Where do I know that from? I had to, like, stop researching, and I would just stop researching and then just sit here just going, oh.
And so, you're not on TikTok either, are you?
No, and I intend to keep it that way.
Did you hear about the rapture?
I did hear about the rapture,
yes. Yeah, where, like, people literally thought the world was gonna fucking end. I think it was on September 23rd or 24th. It was... And people were literally, like, fucking, Tuesday. Like, selling their cars and their houses and, like, leaving really big tips at restaurants because they thought the rapture was going to happen, and then it didn't. And so it just, like, goes to show, especially with how big it ended up being. Like, I saw it everywhere on social media. Yeah. You know, obviously a lot of people didn't believe in it, but there's still, like, so many people that are, like, fucking, like, I mean... in it to the point where they believe some, like, relatively scary things.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I just want to say that the fact that I am not on social media that much, like, I post on my own Instagram a little bit here and there, but most of what I use social media for is looking at dog memes. So the fact that I heard about it says something.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was expecting Elena never to have heard of it. But if Elena's heard of it, it fucking got out there.
Oh, you know if I know about something, it's big. Because I basically live under a little rock. But yeah, no, it's just insanity, dude. We got a little bit off topic, but... yeah, we will be bringing up a lot of more modern stuff here and there. And there's I would at some point like to talk about our experiences growing up, like not during the height of the satanic panic. Because I've had some experiences with stuff here and there. But, so let me finish wrapping up this case before I forget. So in 2011, the 3 supposed murderers got out through what's called an Alford plea, which is basically saying that we're innocent, but we acknowledge the fact that you may have enough evidence to say we did it, but we're innocent, which I don't think they had enough evidence to convict them, but whatever. And what infuriates me about this case, and every other case that we're going to talk about, where it involves, like, murder and crimes and stuff, is the fact that because they were so quick to jump on the weird person or the quote-unquote Satanist, they could have let an actual murderer go who could have gotten away and committed more murders because they were so focused on taking care of the weird people and not the actual problem. And because they fumbled so much of this evidence, we're never going to know. We're literally never going to know because they just fumbled. Like, they're the actual murderers of, like, these cases are just out there somewhere, you know? And, like, we're going to talk about a case later on that involves, like, some child abuse and stuff and, like, sexual assault on children. And they went so heavy into the satanic aspect of it that it completely got ignored. That, like, if there was some sexual abuse allegations going on. That was just thrown out the window, and they didn't bother to look at any of that.
Oh, God, that pisses me off.
And this whole thing, it's just... it's a whole thing, and it just bothers me endlessly that people are so quick to jump on prejudice. Like I said, we may never know who actually did these things. I do not think that these... I could be wrong, but I do not think that Eccles, Baldwin, and Miss Kelly committed these murders. And we'll never know who actually killed those boys. And their families are dead. The families of the children that were murdered are dead convinced that it is these three. And, you know, on the one hand, they now think that their murderers are out and about and just free. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, we don't know who the actual murderer is, and they're never going to come to justice because of that.
Yeah, because they didn't even bother researching after the other three were let go. Like, they made their conclusion and did no more research, no more looking into it. I'm like, okay, so that's some really shitty police work.
The police are to blame for so much of this stuff.
Oh, God.
On that horrible note, that's all I have for my research. Do we want to talk about any of this? Bring any of this, like, chit-chat? I don't know how long this episode has been running.
So we talked about, like, media that was around in, like, the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So different movies and cartoons and music and stuff. But I kind of wanted to bring it into the modern age with the satanic panic stuff happening in terms of, like, number one, video games. Because while I didn't personally, have any satanic panic experiences, like, no one ever thought I was a fucking Satanist because I dyed my hair and wore black all the time. I do know people that, since growing up in the South, playing video games was, like, heavily looked down on. Like, it was basically seen as, like, a satanic thing to do, especially when you're playing, like, a first-person shooter game and you're, like, shooting other people, or, you know, playing a game where you can create a character and your character is, like, a demon or something. Just, like, the amount of, like, violence in video games, and there's some, like, occult stuff in video games, and there's a lot of this imagery that scares people in video games. And I do know people that have grown up in small towns or in the South that have been looked down on and been whispered about and been called unchristian by other Christians just because they played video games.
Well, I considered dipping my toes into that with the media episode that we're doing right now. And, I decided I didn't want to make it too long, but there is a lot of stuff because, I mean, that was more towards the tail end of the peak of this, but a lot of first-person shooters and stuff, and, like, video games really started becoming popular and coming into their own and being for, like, a bit more for everyone. Not necessarily, it was still sort of a more fringe community, but a bit more for everybody at this time. And video game graphics started becoming better. It wasn't like the text-based video games. You started having, like, Doom, I think, when did Call of Duty come out? I don't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, God, it was a pretty long time ago.
And, like, Hexen came out, and those are all, like, violence, and, like, Doom has demons, Hexen has witchcraft, and, like...
sure they argued that Pac-Man was fucking satanic, and so...
We'll get into it in the next episode, but it sort of goes along with the idea of, like, toys being satanic, because you're... And, like, things with, like, D&D, because you're putting yourself in the mindset of these demons or whatever. You're pretending to be a demon. You're channeling your energy into that. I wanted to talk about it, but I think I could do a whole other episode on it. But there was a conspiracy about this video game. Was it called Polybius, I think? That it, from my understanding, it never existed, but it was, like, this there is... all this conspiracy around it and some satanic tie-ins. That's a whole episode for another time. I heard about that on the podcast Cryptid Cocktail Party. They did a great episode on that, which I would recommend going and listening to. But, like, there's a whole lot of stuff around video games. And like you said, Pac-Man was satanic, probably because it has ghosts. Only a Satanist would name a ghost Clyde.
Pinky.
Was it Inky, Pinky... Inky, Pinky, and Clyde, or was there another one?
There was more than that. I thought there was like 5 ghosts. I don't know. I haven't played Pac-Man in so long.
I don't know. I just remember Inky, Pinky, and Clyde, and that's all that matters. But yeah, we could talk about books. I know when I was growing up,
yes,
I was into a lot of fantasy and stuff, because nerdy kid, you know. I had a friend in middle school that stole my Harry Potter book and, like, hid it away from me because she was so afraid that I was going to become a Satanist and, like, become a witch and a devil worshiper, and spoiler alert, look where I am now. But, like, she stole this book from me, and I was, like, worried about it because I, like, saved up all of my chore money and my money from, like, doing odd jobs to, like, buy this book. And I was like, hey, I can't find this. I was all sad because I couldn't find it, and she ended up admitting that she took it because she didn't want me to become, like, a Satan worshiper. Luckily, she ended up giving it back to me, but that friend was, like, very on me about, like, oh, this is going to make you turn, like, get into Satan, that's gonna make you become, like, that's anti-Christian, that's whatever, that's, you know. And, like, I was lucky enough to avoid a lot of that, but I still had some of that from my friends growing up that had it ingrained in their brain about this, that, or the other is Satan. And yeah, no, I really lucked out with that living in the South, but it still persists. And like you said, even to this day, we're still kind of living in a bit of a satanic panic.
I did actually know a girl in middle school who I was friends with who wasn't allowed to, like, watch or read anything that had, like, anything occult in it. Like, magic or whatever. Like, I remember I was reading the Harry Potter books, and I was like, oh, you've never, like, read or seen Harry Potter? And she's like, no, I'm not allowed to view any of that content. Like, we're not even allowed to speak about it. Like, and to the point where she wasn't even allowed to watch, like, other movies. Like, basically it had to be, like, G-rated a lot of the time. And
VeggieTales exclusively?
It had to specifically be, like, Christian content. Like, otherwise she wasn't allowed to watch it.
Yeah, this same friend that stole my Harry Potter book, her family went to go see the Trans-Siberian Orchestra for Christmas because they're like, oh, they do Christmas music. Not knowing that they don't only do Christian music. They are, like, a orchestral metal band.
Right.
And when they did stuff that wasn't just Christmas music, her parents were like, oh my God, this is the devil, this is Satan. They're hiding it in the guise of Christmas music, and they, like, left and, like, wrote a terrible review on the, like, venue or whatever, because they're like, they're allowing Satan music to...
That is just so crazy. Like, as someone that went to see Trans-Siberian Orchestra, like, 10 years in a row with my grandparents, that's a crazy, like, thing to think about. Because, trust me, as a child going to see Trans-Siberian Orchestra, I was not thinking about that. I wanted to be the fucking piano player. That was about it.
Yeah. It boggles my mind what people will assume is Satan and what isn't, but again, it's the unknown is Satan.
Right.
That the devil is basically an analogy for the unknown and scary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're starting to get towards the end of this episode, and we're not going to try and run it too long because we have 2 more episodes, which will be coming out over the course of this month, which you guys should go and listen to, and we will go and chit-chat in some of those as well. So, do you want to do the outro, or shall I?
I will go ahead and do it. Thank you for listening. If you liked it, please rate the podcast and share it with the weird people in your life. Follow us on Instagram at whataboutweird.pod, where we often share pictures related to the episodes. We are also on Blue Sky as whataboutweirdpod. If you have any topic suggestions or personal weird stories, please DM us or email us at whataboutweirdpod@gmail.com.
And always remember,
there is no escape.
No mercy. All weird.